Okay, Clifton, where are you? Are you ready with your Morse Taper demo? You're muted, buddy.
How about that?
That's much
Am I
better.
back?
You are.
Okay. Sure, I can do that if you'd like.
Yes. Show us
Okay.
what you were going to show, what you told me about,
So,
and show us your video.
I am going to share the screen, and this came up when I did. Is my little goblet up there?
Yep.
Okay. So when we did that, I answered some questions about turning the stem, which was I used some Morse taper collets, and that's when the turning the wood Morse tapers came up. So I said I would just do a quick little demonstration. These are some wood Morse tapers I've made over the years, a little sandy mandrel. Um, this is one of my little favorites. It's a traveling buffer. So I put this on my live center, pinch it between there and traveling buffer with a wood Morse taper. Um, this one is a piece of plastic from a coffee container. This is also threaded onto my live center and pinched between there so I can make a so anyways, this little guy here just helps me to turn these little buttons for my throwing top. And again, it's a wood Morse taper. So they come in handy. Here's my little Morse taper collets. The price is right, really, is what it amounts to. They're not for everything, and obviously they have their limitations. But
what are their limitations, Clifton?
Well, they're small. They're for small stuff. You're not going to
Okay.
use this for for large items, but when you need a holding something to hold with, you can turn. I mean, these are just obviously the Morse taper. Some of these I don't even remember what I was using them for, but
Yeah.
I can always cut this off, glue a piece
Yeah.
on, and turn it for my next project. So that's why I saved them. So one of the things about the taper is, even though it's a Morse taper, they are different as to where they fit. How far they slide out of your headstock. So you get to decide. And what I do is I caliper the inside of my taper and turn a dowel. And you can turn these between centers. For demonstration purposes, it's certainly easier to use your chuck as your third hand. And then I just turn this into a dowel, and using that calipered mark.
Now, is that caliper of yours bright red so you can find it in the chips?
It is, but also since I take these to classes and I hand them out, it helps me to find them.
They all come back.
At the end of the day. Yeah, nobody wants that. So then since I calipered this and I caliper this, I slide this down and I make a mark where it fits. And then I make another mark towards the end and I caliper that mark. So now I've got that mark, and that mark goes right here. So I do bring my tailstock up, as you can hear, kind of needs it. And it doesn't take a whole lot. So that's the size I need. And now the easiest thing to do is either come here point to point from here to the end, or if you really wanted to, you could hollow this middle section out. So the only bearing surface is going to be here and here. That works, but as you can imagine, it does give it a little bit of flex. So that's kind of it. The key there is the comparative measurements, you know, taking this measurement, the difference between them, and then cutting a straight line. And then you would take this, turn it around. I think I went a little too far at this end. You certainly make sure you turn this off before you test your taper. So then you would turn this around and clean this all up. You know, you once you have your taper where you want it, and believe it or
Yeah,
not,
then you make whatever you want out of the rest of the piece of wood. I got it.
this one just happened to turn out this time. Why? I don't know, because it doesn't always. But
so, are you going to see a burnish mark when you put that taper on there and twist it? Is that going to show you where it's rubbing?
So that's what I'm absolutely. And I just happen to have an extension, so I use it. If I don't, what I do is I just pop the live center out, run this up. Obviously, any of this is done by hand, you know, to get your burnish marks. And then when you see your marks, you just barely brush that part of it off. And so by the time you're done.
And what are good woods for this?
Well,
I'd use maple, I would think.
If you're doing it as a demonstration, you use poplar, because you're setting yourself up for success. If you use things like lignum vitae, you really have to be precise. So here's the piece. Now you know, I just true it up. Base it off, whatever I need to do. One of the fellows I turn with hollows this out, and then he glues his tagua nuts into this little recess and turns his little tagua nuts into little vases and vessels. So that's it. I mean, it's really, like I said, it's the key is just the, you know, the comparative measuring it out, measuring the diameter you need for your lathe, how far away it is, measuring the smallest diameter, and connecting the dots.
Let me take the spotlight off you and go back to a gallery, and let's see if we got any questions or other people with more observations on Morse tapers. What do we got out here? Anybody, any questions for Clifton?
Yeah, I have a comment. I made a bunch of Morse tapers without any measurements at all. What I did was I took a little block of wood, 3 inches square, and glued a strip of wood onto it that was just thicker than the half of the radius of the large diameter of the taper. And then you take a Morse taper tailstock item or whatever that fits in and lay that onto your block and glue the second piece up against that taper. And then as you turn, you make yourself a little gauge. And as you turn your piece down, you make it so that your gauge fits on. And they're very simple to make.
They absolutely are. And my problem with that is I never have that when I need it. So my calipers are here, my tools are here. It takes less than 5 minutes and I'm done. And it would take me 5 minutes to find my gauge. So I agree 100% that works. The other thing that I think with these is if you're teaching a group of students, this is a practice piece, and it helps them, one, learn how you teach, and it also helps them make something that's useful if it's useful for the class. I've had the students turn these when we're doing pepper mills, so they have their own mandrel. I've had them turn these when we were doing bottle stoppers, so they had their own mandrel. But absolutely, 100 ways to do the same thing. That is the truth.
It seems to me that's an excellent way to make your own mandrels. I mean, I make a lot of mandrels and hold them in the scroll chuck. But
Mhm.
now that I know how to make a Morse taper, I'm going to start making Morse taper mandrels.
And the price is right.
Yeah, I like that part too. Um, any more comments or from anybody else on this?
Yeah, Clifton, one of the things that most people don't realize is that a Morse taper is not that hard of a taper. It's only about 1 plus a little bit degrees. So it's
Right.
not tapered that much.
True. True. When I was doing this for the class, for the youth group, one of my mentors gave me a sheet of paper, and it had all of the numbers, like the rise and the run or whatever it was. And I'm looking, I'm saying, I got a bunch of 9-year-olds, and I'm gonna try to have a measure 0.9 something something. And I said, there's got to be a better way. And so that's when I came up with basically what I call comparative measuring. And so anyways, I think it's a useful tool to have in the background. And one day you'll be turning, like with the that goblet. Um, by the time I got to the stem part of it, I didn't even think. I just said, "Yeah, absolutely, that will be a Morse taper collet chuck," and I moved on to the next step. Because it's all problem solving.
Sure,
That's how I
sure.
solved that problem. Anyways, not to take up any more time, I just thought that would be a fun little project.
Well, thank you very much, Clifton. If there's any other comments, let's have them, and then we'll move on.
I
Okay.
really like the idea of using your extender or adapter. I have like a 3-to-2 adapter for my 2436 for testing. That's awesome. Good tip.
Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah. I've got a short thing as well. Can you spotlight me, John?
I sure
Hi,
can.
speaking.
Yep,
Ah,
go.
hi. Okay, seems to be working. I've got one of these collet chucks that that's the collet, which goes into here, and then that
You have to
fits
lift it up.
into.
We're not seeing it. You have to lift it up.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that goes into here, and that has got a thread to fit on the spindle. And then I turn these little wooden adapters that have got a tenon that fits into the collet, and
Is
then
that
you
is
can
that tenon
turn
tapered or straight?
No, it's straight. It's straight
Okay.
as the collet is straight as well. It's half inch, a half
Yep.
inch collet, and then this is half inch as well on this end. And I turn several of them. I have them ready for different jobs, and then I put them in, tighten the nut of the collet, and then you can turn the end to whatever size you want to have, or to a hole into it if you want to glue something into it, like a nut or whatever. So that is quite handy as well. But of course, it's you need to have a collet chuck to do that. And what Clifton showed is easier and uses less technical equipment. But if you have a collet chuck, that is a good option to keep several of these ready. And then whenever I need one for a quick job, I can take them, turn them to size, glue something on them, make them shorter, whatever. And I've always lots of scrap wood in the workshop that I can use for these little wooden things. Yeah, so that's just what I wanted to add.
Thank you, Kai. Very helpful. Anybody else lurking out there on this? Okay, looks like we got them all.
Wood shop. Thank God for wood.